Okay, this is a lot of pressure. I really hope it's good enough to make the beginning. All right. Okay. It's Saturday morning, and my husband Kyle just missed his turn on the New Jersey Turnpike. I'm in the car driving up to Brooklyn from Philadelphia, furiously typing on my computer. I've been invited to guest on a comedy podcast called Asian Not Asian. It's not my first comedy podcast, but it may as well be. Even though I have 15 years of podcasting under my belt, no one in my career has ever said Yowei Shaw should make a comedy podcast. So here I am, scrambling to think of anecdotes that might impress Jenny and Mike. But what exactly makes Jenny and Mike laugh? I only know Jenny Arimoto from her viral video sketches. And I did just make a music video of myself pole dancing in a Kleenex box costume, but will she think I'm a tryhard? And I know Mike Nguyen is a menswear aficionado, which is why I wore my custom-made cat t-shirt referencing the pastiche of early 2000s hip-hop. But will he think it's gauche? As I walk up to the studio, I tell myself, no matter what happens, even if I bomb on this comedy podcast, I'll always have narrative. There we go. Thank you.
Okay, and this is yet another episode of the world famous Asian Not Asian podcast, the podcast with all of your favorite Asian friends. I'm Mike Nguyen.
I'm Jenny Arimoto.
It is a beautiful, beautiful day, and we have decided to spite God by going into this soundproof booth with no windows.
Hide out. But isn't this your dream?
Is it?
I thought you don't like summer.
Oh, I don't like being outdoors.
Yeah, so like you love being indoors, right?
Yes. Okay, good point.
Do you like windows?
I like windows.
Oh, okay.
I like windows that are open. I like
But you want to be
doors.
inside.
It's just more that I don't, if there's an opportunity for us to do something where there's like patio seating or not patio seating, I would prefer not patio seating at almost any time. Almost any time.
Because of why?
I don't like the sun in my face. I don't like being outside, especially in New York City.
Yeah.
You think it's going to be like, oh, I'm in France. No, it's not. You're going to be watching a rat poop on the street in front of you. And you're like, wow, God, I paid $18 for that Aperol Spritz.
Okay, got it.
You know, that's why.
Interesting. I love a patio. I love a patio. Welcome to the show. Before we get started, a couple of quick announcements. Come check us out, Hack City. We got the summer series. I'm just going to name it that. The summer series of Hack City, and it's always a lot of fun. Just in case, the next one will be July 12th, and then the one after that is August 9th. And so it's the second Friday of every month. It's always a lot of fun. Wear shorts. I don't care. You know, it's let's get crazy.
Go crazy.
Yeah. Show us those gams. Does that mean legs? Show us your gams.
Hey, nice gams, sweetie. Yeah, it's free if you talk like a 90s 20s gangster. Hey, sweetie.
Hey, sweetie.
Nice gams, sweetie.
Hey, nice gams and nice jokes.
Come here. Let me see a little of that gams. It's a lot of fun. Please come out and we'll hang out. It'll be great. I will try to be there August 9th. My child may have been born by then.
Oh my God.
My second child.
Wait, but I'm not going to be there August 9th.
Oh no. So
we need to have a conversation about that offline.
We will need to have a conversation about this offline. If everything goes according to plan, my child will be born by then.
Yes. And his child will be a Leo. And that is a conversation I've brought up 40 times to you.
Yes. We moved up the date of the birth because of that.
Yeah.
We're like, no, we
not
need to
a Virgo.
Sure.
We need to make sure it's a Leo.
Yeah. The blood test came back and they're like, ooh, it could be borderline Virgo.
Yeah.
We better move up the date. That's why. You imagine?
100%. That's something I would do.
Yeah.
Like, well, I would get along better with the Leo.
Excuse me, doc. You're at Mount Sinai. And you're like, what's the sign?
Yeah. Is there any way we can delay this a week? Because this is important to
me. Like you read out the, what is it? Like the chromosome report?
Yeah.
And it's, okay, we've got all the base pairs here.
Yeah.
And according to this, borderline Virgo Leo.
You're like, oh my God, that's not going to work for me.
That's not going to work for me. Let's go ahead and schedule this birth.
Yeah.
to another time.
Let's move that up to early August.
Yeah. That's what happens when gentrifying Brooklyn takes over the healthcare system.
Mm-hmm.
But
hopefully we'll be there, and it'll be a lot of fun. So real quick shout out to our Patreon. We have to shout out Patreon in a minute. But you know, the Patreon literally supports the show. It's patreon.com/AsianNotAsianPod. And we give you a little shout out when you become a paying member. And this week we got someone who paid, I like this, because they paid in full up front.
Oh, wow.
The whole thing.
Okay.
Which is sick.
Yeah, we love that.
Yeah. This person, Andy Wong. What are we getting, Andy Wong? What are we getting here?
Andy Wong is such a familiar name.
It feels really familiar.
Yeah.
He's like the good dude in the friend group who maybe he's not like initiating like the activity thing, but you know he's coming through.
Yeah.
He's coming through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He will always be there on time.
Always be there on time.
He's going to like at a group dinner and you're like, well, you know, we know that whatever happens, Andy will come.
Andy,
you know,
everyone's texting like, oh, I'm super late. Oh, Andy, can you hold 12 seats for us?
Yeah.
At the movie theater?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Andy is definitely an earth sign.
Earth sign.
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely like Taurus energy, you know, reliable. And then when there's a fight, they're kind of the one that's like, come on, guys.
Guys, come on. Hey.
Like let's talk this through.
Let's just all go rock climbing right now.
Yeah.
Like we're about to.
Let's work this out via, what do you call them? A V7. I don't know what they're called.
Oh, that little climbing rating.
Yeah,
thing?
like aren't there different ratings?
Yes, there are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think V7's pretty hard.
I think that's really hard.
So Andy's an expert climber.
Yeah, but he looks really unassuming. Like, you know, he's just
when
like
he takes his shirt off, he's like ripped.
Ripped. Huge forearms.
Yeah, huge forearms.
This guy is finger blasting like crazy.
I didn't think I would hear the word finger blasting
It's my
this early in the day.
Dude.
I do love that phrase. It just caught me off guard. It just caught me off guard.
Because you know that whoever says that doesn't know how to finger a person at all. AKA me. I'm always like...
I just haven't used finger blasting in a second. It feels good to hear it again.
Yeah, hey.
It reminds me of my youth.
Yeah, hey, you down for a good finger blast? And I pull out a super soaker. What the fuck is that?
Isn't this what you want?
Wait, is this what you meant, right?
Isn't this what you were talking about?
I pull out a Nerf gun. That's what you meant, a finger blasting.
Oh my God.
And we break up. Okay.
Oh,
anyways,
God.
Andy Wong.
Congrats, Andy.
Great at finger blasting and not in the summer series. This is it.
For real. We're getting loosey-goosey.
We're going crazy. Such a good word.
Oh my God.
Well, thank you very much, Andy Wong. And if you want to get in on this finger blasting, it's patreon.com/AsianNotAsianPod. Okay.
Oh my God. It feels good to be back.
Our guest has gotten up and left. That's crazy.
Yeah, I know.
Our guest has shook their head and was just like, I'm ashamed.
I don't want to do this anymore. Yeah.
And is driving away right now. No, our guest is still here. And our guest is a podcast host, producer, self-proclaimed emotional investigative journalist, this sounds amazing. Longtime producer and eventual co-host of NPR's Invisibilia. Now, kind of just, girly out in the streets. Girly out in the streets. I like it. Give it up for Yowei Shaw, everybody.
Yowei.
Hi. How you doing?
I'm out here in the streets.
Yeah.
That's what I'm doing.
I know. It's okay. I'm also out here on the streets.
You came all the way. You drove up here from Philly.
I
To do this.
did.
So thank you so much.
I know.
for
Thank
doing
you
that.
so much. Sorry that you had to listen to whatever that was.
Yeah.
leading up to it.
I was gonna say I also love the word finger blast.
Yeah, do you?
I hear that. So my husband's best friend Chrissy loves to use the word finger blasting, and that's like they were in a band and they were on tour. That was like one of the main jokes that they did. So I'm very familiar with the term.
Yes.
Love it.
Yeah.
Cosign. Not leaving the studio. Definitely staying.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, good. Thank God.
I'm bringing it back, kind of like how Gen Z is bringing back like flared pants and stuff.
Yeah.
Bring back finger
It did really remind me of my youth. It felt good.
Right?
Yeah.
You thank you for coming.
Thank you for having
you.
me.
We want to get into a lot of it right now, but one of the things I've always wanted to do, and I asked you to do this for me, was so you worked at NPR for a long time. You were a producer, co-host, and I've listened to a lot of your work. Big fan, and it's
Huge fan.
So it's just like I haven't had a real NPR person in here before, and I've always wanted to have an NPR-style podcast intro. You know what I'm talking about.
I do know what you're talking about.
You know what I'm talking about, and
I've asked you, and you've been nice enough to indulge me, and you've written one.
I wrote one in the car ride here.
Huge.
You need to have something where you monetize that somehow. Like, you know, like...
Well, I'm trying out here.
You know, like for like, you know, kind of like, what's
Like a
that?
cameo?
Yeah, like cameo.
Oh.
Where you do like custom little things
NPR-style thing.
NPR style.
Okay.
And you put the little tinkly music at the background.
Listen, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
I will I'm putting that in my pocket.
It's really good.
Thank you, Mike.
Yes. Oh, yeah. He's here to monetize your skills. So that's what we're here for.
Dude, I'm all about monetizing skills right now. We need to make money. We're poor. Yeah, I loved it. I've never ever there's 200 something episodes of this. I don't think the word gauche has ever been used. Gauche.
Yes.
Gauche.
Wow.
That was awesome.
Thank you.
So well written.
Well, yeah, I was wondering what would make you two laugh. And I'm not sure. I would like, I don't
Apparently
know.
it's the phrase finger blast.
Okay.
I just lost my mind.
That's true.
Gauche and finger blast.
Yeah. Okay,
Is finger blast and gauche? You know, like, that's a great sentence.
That's the question we're here to answer today.
As I walked up to the studio, I wondered, is finger blasting gauche?
That's what makes us laugh.
You got your job back at NPR. That's great. I mean, I that was wonderful. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.
And you know, we've never met before, but you know, I think a lot of people have probably heard your voice and your work. Maybe even if you know, they maybe not like put the face to the name or whatever. But yeah, I mean, I don't know, like where do you want to start? We can get started with just like, you know, who you are and what brought you to this moment.
Yeah, let's do that. Okay, so I got laid off last year, which is why I'm here. Yes. So I was working at Invisibilia. I was there for 7 years. And last year, because of massive budget cuts, and if you haven't heard, the media industry is collapsing, everything in the world right now.
Yeah.
And so, there was just a massive budget shortfall. And NPR told us that, 10% of us had to go in a month. So that experience, I had never experienced anything like that before. Like that month of waiting.
Wow.
That collective panic attack. It was really something.
Did they tell you that you might go, or they tell you you're going?
No. Okay, so it was one of those. It was a situation where they told us in a staff meeting that they needed to cut 10% of us off, and we would find out in a month.
That's fucked.
Why would they do it like that?
These are questions that all the journalists at NPR kept asking at every all staff meeting. I don't really know, but that's what happened, and that month was wild.
Wow.
Oh my goodness. It was like everyone was having a collective panic attack.
Yes.
Yeah.
And, I have lots of feelings about it, which is why I eventually made this series on layoffs.
Right.
For my new podcast, Proxy.
Right.
And that's why.
We want to get into that too, but during that month, was productivity really high? Because
my goodness.
or was it really poor? It was like, fuck it. It's like the end of the world. We're doing coke. Like, who gives a shit?
Doing coke in the studio on the studio floor of NPR headquarters. That's ridiculous.
We're doing Zantac.
Well, okay, it's interesting. There was like a fork in the road at that point. It's like, because the decision was presumably still had to be made. It's like, do you try to like work as hard as you can and manage up and try to like, try to save your ass, essentially, or do you succumb to the panic and basically just freak out for an entire month and, barely function? I would say, I don't know what most people did, but from union Slack, it seems like it was the latter. It's just impossible to do your job at a high level when you're worried about losing your livelihood. But the thing that really was so surprising to me was I was a shop steward for our union. So I would be like writing the union newsletter, staying up, going to meetings, answering questions. And then the next morning I'd show up to a Zoom meeting, and then like my head started to do this thing where I would like start calculating my worth against my colleagues.
Yeah.
And I would be like, who has more downloads? Who has more experience?
Yeah.
Did you ever feel like, oh, they're not going to get me? I mean, Invisibilia, that's one of the flagship ones. I always felt, you know?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, I was vacillating wildly. I was like, we have a big audience.
Yeah.
We're an institution.
Yeah.
We have so many downloads. And then like, we're safe, right? And then I would be like, well, we're a narrative podcast that is not making money at the moment. And because like narrative audio is expensive. That's the thing.
Yeah.
It takes time and a lot of money to make the kind of work that we were making.
Right.
And then I would be like, oh, I'm fucked. Like I need to start looking immediately.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Wow.
But I will say
Yes.
there were perks to
Okay.
this situation.
Okay.
So it was really like there was this Hunger Games versus solidarity tension.
Yeah.
At least in that I was noticing. So there was like, people just sort of looking around being like, who's going to go? So there was like that kind of feeling. But then there was also just everybody banding together.
Yeah.
And like we had this union Slack and like it had never popped off as much. Like everybody joined
Wow.
and people were making jokes. People got like 10 times funnier.
Gallows humor. All that
Gallows humor. And like it was really a bomb at the time.
Yeah.
Just like everybody cracking jokes, helping each other, posting job opportunities.
That's great.
That was wonderful.
Yeah.
Did the 10% cut, so the day of, Black Tuesday or whatever it was did it all happen at once? Like, did all of a sudden 10% of like it was the fucking like the rapture and it was just like all of a sudden, or what?
It didn't it was like a fragmented rapture.
Oh, that's even more fucked. That's
Over
fucked.
like a few days. It was like different departments day by day. And they to their credit, NPR tried to be transparent
Sure.
and tried to tell us
Right. Hey, this is about to happen.
which one of us had to like worry for which day.
I see.
Fuck.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah.
No, I know. Well, from your email, I know that you all got laid off too.
Oh yeah,
Oh, yeah.
dude. Yeah. High five. Everybody.
High five, everyone.
Five. Everybody
Okay,
go high-fiving.
We're alive.
Okay, so I brought something for you all.
Oh my God.
This is
because
the
we
best.
are all on team layoff. Okay.
Oh my
So,
gosh.
Here is a gold star stress ball. Because you are a gold star.
Wow.
You are a gold
Thank you.
star.
Yeah, show the camera.
Yeah, we show the camera. Look how
Okay.
cute this is.
And I brought one for myself so we could like
Oh, we
squeeze
can
it
squeeze
in
them.
solidarity.
Where did you get these from?
I got these from online. This is a prop. This was a prop for the music video.
Yeah.
So I have like an entire bin of them.
I love it.
And I've just decided that I'm going to try to give them to people who've been laid off as I make my way through the world.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
You're going to need a lot more than
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I know. I'm going to need millions,
Yes.
millions and millions.
Do you have like a bag full of them, or do you have,
I
like
have
20 more? In
I
your bag?
have an entire cardboard box filled to the brim.
Oh, okay.
So way more than, because like,
Yeah, this does seem
Yeah.
like something you have to buy like 100 of them at once.
exactly.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's $5.
It's like 50 a pack.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I got 3. So.
Oh,
Yeah.
I love it.
Wow.
Well,
yeah,
I'm
I
gonna
was
use
laid
it.
off. I mean, it was a while ago.
Yeah.
But I've been laid off more than once. I think I've only been laid off once. Been fired, but I've been laid off once. And
How long ago?
it was like a decade ago. It basically marked the beginning of my comedy career. Like I started doing comedy at that point.
Yeah.
It was from a big advertising agency, and I had witnessed layoffs before. I was listening to your layoff story on your podcast, Proxy, and it sounded very traumatic. You were, for you, I think, you had a lot of feelings, and it sounds very stressful. For me, it was shocking, and it's interesting. I sometimes wonder how much of it is, I had this feeling when I got the news, like, they called me in. I got the idea, like, when I got the meeting, and I was like, oh, something's happening. So, like, I was sat down, and as soon as I saw, like, the HR person and my boss, I was like, ah, shit,
Yeah.
It's like that scene in Goodfellas where, like, Joe Pesci suddenly realized he's about to be shot in the back of the head. Okay, anyway, so like, so I was like, no, and then my brain's just hit on the walls. But the first thing I remember thinking was, do they still like me? Like, did I do a good job? You know what I'm saying? Like, was this because I don't know, didn't email you back enough fast
Yes.
enough? And I think I asked that and in so many words, they were like, no, this is like, you know.
They always say that. Yeah, it's not about you. This is just a business decision.
Yeah. And it wasn't that bad because I had seen this happen, and it was just sort of like we lost some clients, you know, like we lost the client you were working on, and that was like the thing.
Yeah.
And so you know, I didn't feel too badly about it. It was a bummer, but it was also kind of cool because then I suddenly didn't have to like. We have all the work that we do on the walls, and usually we're like, oh, look, how's this look? Oh, how's this social media post gonna do? Whatever. And suddenly it didn't matter. I didn't give a shit, and it was like, this is great. I'm like a ghost. But in like, you know, in a way where it's like I no longer have to care about what these mortal concerns. You know what I'm saying? I started stealing stuff. I like downloaded all of my work onto a hard drive, which was theirs, which I took. And
go you.
You know, I went to the
extra severance.
Yeah,
right there.
they didn't you know, escort me out. Huge mistake. I was like,
wait, that was my question. So you had the full day, or you stayed there the whole week, or
no? They let me go, and they're like, I forgot exactly. They were like, okay, basically, you know, you just got to leave in like the next hour or something. But nobody was supervising me.
I see.
I was just like, okay. And then I was like, as I was walking by, I was like, hey, I just got laid off to everybody as I walked by. And like, you could like see the shock.
Because other people didn't know.
They didn't know. I was like, oh my God. They were going to make the announcement later on. And so they're like, what's happening? And I was like, yeah, you know, it's fine. And so I like loaded up my bag with stuff. And then I went to a bar. You know, where all, you know, we all used to hang out. I went to a bar, and it was like 12:30 or something, or like, maybe even earlier. It was like in the morning, right? So, and I was like, you know what? I can start drinking now. It doesn't matter. So I started drinking. People were texting me, and I was like, I'm down here. You know, come hang out. And people would come down and like talk to me, like, this is so fucked up, blah blah. You know, they were upset about it. And I was sort of like, it's fine. And I was just, you know, then I started doing comedy, and then it really wasn't fine. But for the first couple of hours, I think maybe it was just the shock of it.
Yeah.
Plus, again, like my you know, the advertising world is like, this is how it is. Like, people get laid off all the time.
I see.
So
okay.
it was a little less.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was a little less crazy, and people, again, they didn't sort of treat me like. I don't know if this is good or bad, but it was so normalized that it wasn't so like, get out now. You're like,
right. There's not as much stigma because it was so normalized.
It was like, okay, well, you know, that's okay. And then people would start like sending me like people I used to work with be like, I heard what happened. You know, if you need stuff, like here's, you know, send me your resume, blah, blah, blah. So the work started, you know, kind of for that started right away.
Yeah.
But it was one of those things I think where in retrospect, if I knew I was going to live through it like the way I did, it would be a really fun time. Do you know?
Say more.
Yeah, it was
what
like,
do you mean?
You know, for a little while, you're free. You know, you have
Yeah, totally.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's true.
Because
you got severance?
I got some severance, and then like I started doing freelance and stuff like that.
Okay.
So like,
you had some cushion.
Yeah, so it's like I knew that I was gonna get through it. Right?
Yeah.
But of course, like during it, you know, you're like
panicking.
Oh, well, yeah, of course, you're like,
Yeah.
well, how am I gonna pay rent and stuff like that? But like things, you know, and now that I'm sort of more stable, knock on wood. I'm like, man, you know, that was a pretty cool time. I was like such a free hippie, man. Yeah, I don't know what you can.
I mean, my layoff happened last year, and I literally
But yeah, and you got a tech one.
Tech one,
like
and I was
thing.
literally sandwiched. I came on the podcast. I will say my situation is very weird. Okay, so I quit once on my own accord from my job, and I spent a year trying to like do creative stuff, but I spent that year panicking about not having a full-time job. Went back, and then was part of layoffs. The big layoffs that were it was like the headline in the New York Times, like
on the
right.
news, right.
And my layoff, I was remote, and a lot of people were remote at that point, and they did it by sending an email in the middle of the night, like a mass email.
Yeah. To your personal email or to your work email?
To my work email.
So you found out through a mass email?
Yeah, so I woke up to go to yoga before work, and then I woke up to a mass email that was like, we're cutting down our workforce, and you're part of that, and you're going to lose access to email. And
how long did it take for you to lose access?
Pretty immediate. Like, I think it was, I woke up at like 6:30 or something, and it was like, I think they had sent it to my work and my personal. And then, so I had gotten it double, and then I realized soon after, like after my yoga class, I had no longer had access to my work email. And so then it was just me texting, like other people texting me. But then I was like, I can't deal with this. I have yoga. So then I like went to yoga, and then
that's like the perfect thing to do.
Yeah.
Right after.
Yeah.
Like either go to a bar or go to yoga.
Yeah. I kind of went the opposite direction. But then like that's when I started getting like a bunch of texts from people, and then like people, it was really all over the place who was let go or who was part of the layoff, because it was like what, 20,000 people, 10,000 people.
Damn.
It was something really major.
Yeah, it was a really big one.
It was
like
huge.
A
I think it was close to 20,000 people.
Wow.
And so my friend who had been there for like 12 years was
Yeah.
part of it. I was like, oh, it didn't really matter about like how you were performing or how long you were there.
They were just like, they just needed to cut overhead as hardcore as possible.
100%. And I knew that like it makes sense. I had just onboarded. So I was like, it made sense. But still, you take it a little personally.
Yeah.
You're like, still doesn't feel good.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh. That's really interesting. So what I'm hearing from both of you is that you didn't experience as much self-blame afterwards,
Yeah.
or like emotional devastation
Yes.
as I did. So I'm just a drama queen.
But I think, in advertising, I was faced with, because I think when you are a creative person professionally, you
Yeah.
put your personal, like, this is who I am.
100%.
And at some point in advertising, I think this came like around the time I was actually more of a freelancer or whatever, but I realized I was sort of like a hired gun. You know what I'm saying? I'm an assassin. I'll do whatever you want, and you pay me, and that's how it is. And it made me feel so much better about it, because then it was just like transactional.
Yeah.
I was like, you give me money, I do this for you, and then if you don't like it, okay, that's fine. You still have to pay me,
Yeah.
And it made me weirdly like more of an advocate, because then I wasn't like, oh well, this is my dream, or this is like something I really care about.
Yeah.
I'm so passionate about this, and I will like do whatever I need to. No, I'm like, no, pay me money. I will do what you need me to do, but that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then after that, you want more? You better pay me more.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
This is so interesting. I really wish that I had interviewed more. I wish I had done a whole segment in this series where I interviewed people who'd been laid off who weren't emotionally devastated, because that would have been really interesting to compare and contrast, because like that's the whole reason I made that
For sure.
series.
No, absolutely.
Was because I was just so confused about why I felt so bad and why I was blaming myself when the company told me it wasn't about you.
Right.
And yet it felt so personal. I was like, I felt shame. I like hid from my friends. Like I went through a whole roller coaster of emotions that I really was surprised by, because like intellectually, I knew that like this is not a rational response, because like I had savings, I didn't have kids, we had an excellent union contract, so there were excellent benefits afterwards. Like basically I had like the best quote unquote layoff you could have, and yet I felt so terrible.
Yeah.
And so that was like an emotional mystery that that's why I reported that whole series.
Totally.
So you got laid off last year?
Yes.
Okay. So now it's like what is it, June? So it's been like 6 months or so, right? Maybe. 7 months?
Yeah. It's been a whole year.
Okay, it's been a whole year.
Yeah, yeah.
So with some distance, and now you're working on, your own projects and stuff like that. Do you feel like you have better clarity for why you sort of felt the way you felt?
Yes, I definitely do. So I don't know how you all process your feelings.
Badly. Yeah, go ahead. Poorly.
Yeah, but like one of the things that I do, I mean, probably through comedy, right? Like through your artwork. But yeah, to process my feelings, I report a story about it. That's like how, like when it's a question that I can't get a good answer from like therapist or from my friends and family. And so this was like one of those situations where I was like, I don't understand why I feel like this, and I need to know why. And so I just like dove into reporting why. And I basically talked to a lot of experts, talked to a lot of people about their layoff experience. And I think like the reason why I personally was so emotionally devastated has to do with the myth of meritocracy, which we've all heard of, right? So like the myth of meritocracy essentially is like the idea that, you know, your work, your individual actions determine your outcomes, right? And it like comes from like the Protestant work ethic and Puritans and like there's this whole religious history to it. And like Americans, like the myth of meritocracy exists in other countries, but like research shows that Americans believe it much more strongly.
Totally.
Comedians, funny enough, I think really believe in it.
Really?
Oh yeah, there's this whole thing where
it's interesting.
I mean, people will often say like this person got it because they worked super hard, or there's the whole thing where something is called you have to be undeniable. Right? There's this idea where, just be undeniable. Like some comedians really like to say that. I mean, you're so undeniably good that you will be successal.
Oh God. That's so toxic. That's so toxic.
And it's funny because when I first started, I heard it and I was like, oh yeah, for sure. But it's absolutely not true.
Yeah,
like I see people that I see people who are really, really good. I've gone and I've like destroyed rooms and I have all this shit.
Yeah.
People deny me constantly. I'm constantly being denied.
Well, that's the issue with the myth of meritocracy is that it ignores factors like luck and privilege and like all the other things. And like basically like I feel like we all here we probably all agree that we don't think the myth of meritocracy, like we think it's a myth, right? Like we know that's not how the world actually works.
Right.
And that's what I thought. But like through my reporting, I realized that like I actually deep down emotionally bought into it, even though intellectually I didn't believe it.
Totally. I mean, because, you know, we were saying that we don't believe it, but it feels also really weird because then you're sort of like, you do have to keep going.
Yeah. How do you motivate yourself if like if you don't believe that your work will lead to something, right? So you kind of have to have this self-delusion around it. Yeah.
Yeah. And I feel like there's, I don't know, you know, I have a son and one thing I do want him to believe that like he can be effective. You know what I'm saying? That something is worth trying to do. Maybe like success is going to be sort of an amorphous thing, but like that it's sometimes just working hard in and of itself is worth it because
the process,
then, the process is good. It's better to, you know, if you have a chance to take the chance or whatever it is. Like I want him to have those things, even though I do also sort of believe that, you know, what we're talking about with the meritocracy.
Yeah.
So I don't know how to square it. I don't know if you square that.
Well, it's so, I mean, basically what you're doing right now with your son is you're trying to stop the cycle of the myth of meritocracy, because it really is this myth that like perpetuates all of society and has a lot of harmful effects. Like, I think it leads to when you get laid off or when you fail, you blame yourself. It leads to blaming other people when they fail or stigmatizing them when they, you know, whatever, aren't doing well in life. And it also, like, it's just not helpful in the end. Like, I talked to this sociologist, Ofer Sharon. I'm obsessed with his work. He does a lot of work and research on unemployment and people who've been laid off. And he specifically focused recently on long-term unemployed people. So like white collar, highly educated workers who by all of, you know, society standards did quote unquote the right things. And yet they still fell from grace. They still end up in this trap of unemployment. And so he, you know, tried to understand why and like what's going on. How can you like have a degree? How can you have a PhD from MIT and like have 20 years of experience and end up unemployed and have to go work as a cashier? Like, what's going on here? And he basically found that, you know, there's like this stigma trap that happens where there's like hiring discrimination against unemployed people. So you're statistically less likely to get an interview if you're unemployed, which I'm sorry, everybody, that sucks. And basically that generates negative feelings, obviously. So it's harder to get a job. Then you're experiencing negative feelings and stigma from like the people around you who are like, why, like looking at you differently. Like, why did you get laid off? Why haven't you gotten a job yet? Are you looking the right way? Are you looking hard enough? Like, are you being too negative? And that's what's like preventing you from getting a job. And so then that generates more negative feelings. And then he found from talking to recruiters that if you show up into a job interview with a whiff of negative feelings, you'll be automatically disqualified, which then...
Like towards your former employer or just in general?
Just in general, if you have a negative vibe, if it's leaking out of you.
The vibes.
The
HR vibes.
The vibes really matter.
Vibes matter. Yeah, they matter. Yeah.
And so basically what he has been trying to do is like basically talk to unemployed people and not like give them the myth of like, all you need to do is network better, interview better, and like then you'll get a job. He's like, no, we're going to start off by telling you all the depressing statistics and how like you're being probably discriminated against and stigmatized. Here are all the structural obstacles. Here's like where the stigma's coming from. It's from the myth of meritocracy, blah, blah, blah. And like he gives people a dose of reality so that they know that they have to be in it for the long haul. Because like if you believe in the myth and then you try and then you keep failing, then you internalize the failure. Whereas what Ofer Sharon wants you to do is like understand how the cards are stacked against you so that you understand that you have to like, it's gonna be hard and you need to like just keep trying to get lucky and get that one job offer.
Wow. This is so real.
I don't know if any of that made sense. I'm just like spewing information. Totally, I'm just like so in the weeds.
Oh, see, that's why do you think I started drinking immediately? You know, after hearing all that, I'm like, wow, I need a drink now. That's crazy. So you have this interesting thing where you have all these feelings and you have something you wanted to talk about as far as like inventing rituals.
Yes.
Like all these absurd rituals.
Yes.
And that's, I think I know what you're talking about. I'm not sure exactly. But maybe. What do you mean exactly by that? Like, absurd rituals.
Okay. I really wanted to test this out with you all as two professional comedians. It's not, okay, well, so basically, I've been doing this whole thing where like I deal with my feelings by reporting on them. And like what that entails is like I read books and then I talk to experts and then I talk to sources who have shared experience. And like it kind of feels like a bit, you know, because it's kind of like I'm like this emotional investigative journalist, like putting on this trench coat and like trying to do this thing. It feels like this really particular niche ritual that I've invented for myself.
I see.
And so it made me think, as I've been trying to like process my layoff feelings, that like lots of people are inventing strange rituals all the time to deal with feelings. And, you know, I think that I see people doing it all the time now where like there isn't a practice or a ritual for the thing that you're going through. So like take layoffs, right? Like we don't know, there's no script for how to deal with layoffs. There's no space in our culture for how to grieve this kind of breakup. There are barely any layoff songs. Like there's just like not much there to work with. And so I found myself after my layoff just like inventing things. I was like, I'm going to report a series on layoffs and that'll help me process. Okay, that's not enough. All right, I'm going to go do this other thing. And so I ended up making this song about layoffs and this ridiculous music video where I pole dance in a Kleenex box costume. And like that weirdly helped the most. And I think it was, so basically my theory, I have a phrase for this that I want to test on you all to see what you think. I want to call this a ritual bit because I think that like there's something about inventing a thing that to do to process feelings and like to do it in an absurd way that helps. Like there's something around reframing it and putting it in a different container that makes you giggle and you're just doing it for yourself.
Yes.
Because like, you know, when people asked me, how are you doing? How are you doing? How are you doing? After a while, I was like, I'm not doing great. I don't want to be a downer.
Yeah.
Like, this is so boring. Like, my feelings are such a bore. But then like, once I had this like ridiculous music video, I was just like, this is how I'm doing.
Did you send them that?
Yeah, I can
link?
send screenshots. I can send BT. Like, it's just become something fun to talk about.
Yeah.
And like every time now when I think of my layoff, I think of the music video and then I just giggle.
Right.
Like it's just like
nice.
performed this emotional alchemy.
Yeah.
And so that's basically I'm trying to like this is like something that I want to investigate on the podcast too, which is like what are the ritual bits that people are inventing to deal with weird feelings.
Yeah. Interesting.
Do you all relate? Like, have you, like, as comedians, you're coming up with bits all the time. Like, have you all ever invented a ritual?
Let's see. I feel like maybe because we do comedy, I don't like it. That is my outlet.
That is your ritual.
Comedy is the
it's like all your, like all your,
Stand-up
like
is the
all,
ritual.
right. All your like sketches, your videos, your stand-up sets, like that is the ritual bit.
Yeah. Okay. Well, okay. So I didn't. My layoff story is also weird because my dad passed the next week very suddenly.
No.
So then the layoff.
I'm so
and I only
sorry.
bring this up for a certain reason because
Great bit, by the way.
yeah,
Great bit.
really funny
Super
bit.
good
The craziest part was the layoff was actually great timing because I got to talk to my dad. I called him after it happened, and then we had a
Right.
phone call, and then he had a heart attack the next day.
Oh
which
my
is
God.
the day we recorded the podcast where I talked about the layoff. It's a whole thing.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
it was truly back to back. So then the layoff felt like nothing. Like I was just like,
putting it into perspective.
100% forced it into perspective.
Yeah.
So now I'm going to talk about my dad's stuff. So all this stuff happened like truly back to back,
That's
where
so
it was like a
crazy.
1-2 punch where I was like, 2023 is not going to be good for me.
Yeah.
So then everyone afterwards would be like, hey, how are you doing? You know, like that tone, which is like,
Oh my
'cause,
gosh, yeah, the sad face.
Yeah, like
The sad
so
face.
many bad things happened, which is fair. Like, I don't know how I would talk to someone else who also got laid off and lost their parent in a week. So, but everyone would come to me with that tone, like, hey, girl, just checking in. And so then I made a sketch about like someone who has no idea how to talk about that stuff. She's like, oh no. And I was like, I realized that's my way of dealing with things is to like observe and like make it. So I think that probably what you're doing, I'm doing, but it's just in the structured way because it's comedy and we're comedians.
Yeah.
And we have like a structured output. Like we're always outputting anyways.
Yeah.
Right. You're always like metabolizing feelings, observations, etc.
Yeah, totally. So I think I do that. It's just probably not. It's just probably consistent and annoying. It's because it's on Twitter or TikTok all the time.
Yes.
Or I'm like tweeting or whatever it is. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. I think anything that you know, a lot of comedians have like little notebooks they carry around with them, or like
Yeah.
a little like thing on Notion that's just like a list of things, like
Yeah.
whatever. And it always starts from like this little tickle in your butthole that's like, oh, this is like a.
It always starts from the ass.
It always it really
there.
does feel like, oh, there's something in my butthole, and it's like, is this going? You know, then you ask people, like, is this something? You know, and which is why I think we ask each other that, because you don't know if it's just like a personal thing,
Right.
Yeah.
or if it could become something that's bigger.
Yeah.
Totally.
I think, but yeah, you can. You know, like you said, you kind of sublimate it into something, and then then you have your process, right?
Yeah.
Your boring ass. Either you work it out on stage, you write into a sketch, you turn it into like a TikTok, or
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying. You kind of work through it in that way,
Yeah.
and see if you can like, essentially like. Yeah, you defang the thing, and
Yeah.
it becomes like, oh, you thought this was going to hurt me. Now it's like, it's part of me now. And
Yeah.
actually, I've turned it around on you. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
I think a lot of things which are hard, like they think they're going to hurt you.
Yeah.
Like with it, you turn it around on them, and then you destroy it by giving it more power. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, I just also think there's something to the process, like the adventure of it. Like when you report a story, you're like, you know, you have to conceptualize, you make calls, you do research, you're going through a process, and it feels like you've traveled somewhere by the end. And I feel like that also plays a role in the emotional alchemy of like processing the thing. And you're also asking people, you're getting questions answered. And so that's essentially what I'm trying to do on this new podcast, is like give people that experience that I would give myself selfishly. I want to like do that for other people, and like help them report on their feelings.
Oh, okay. So this is your new thing, Proxy.
Yes.
Which is what you're trying to do here.
Yes.
So what are some other things that you, if you can tell us?
Yeah.
What are things you have, like, you know, you obviously had this arc about your, you know, the sort of layoff.
Yeah.
And are there other, what's sort of next?
Yes. So I just put out the Layoff series, and now I'm working on the full season that's going to come out later this year. And I have a lot of ideas. One of them being, I want to do an episode about introverts who are resentful of the extroverts in their life.
That's real.
Because it's, as an introvert, I can attest to the fact that one may feel some resentment and jealousy towards the extroverts in your life. And so I want to essentially like basically help an introvert understand what's going on with that. And so I'm going to connect them with this author, Susan Cain. I haven't asked her yet, so hopefully she'll say yes. She wrote this amazing book called Quiet. And then I'm going to hopefully find an extrovert who would be willing to talk to this introvert. So like somebody on the other side of the coin, but who knows how to play nice with introverts.
But do they need to have known each other? Like
No.
Oh, really?
So the whole premise of the show is like connecting guests who have niche emotional problems with experts and strangers with shared experience. Yes.
Okay.
So that's one idea. Another idea I have is this one's a little heavy, but it's called Sex After Cancer.
Oh, okay.
So like there's this thing that can happen when you survive prostate cancer, where you suffer from erectile dysfunction and other stuff, and it's just really hard. And so you have issues with intimacy afterwards. Not everyone, but it can happen. And so I want to connect somebody who is going through this issue with this amazing expert, Lori Brotto, who also I've not reached out to yet. I'm really hoping she says yes.
Theoretical podcast.
And so, and she's done amazing work on helping cancer survivors relearn their desire after cancer. And so we would connect this guest with Lori Brotto, and then I was hoping that we could connect the guest with a couple who's already come out on the other side. So like that's a couple where there's a survivor of prostate cancer and they figured out how to have intimacy in a new way.
Oh, wow.
Oh my God. No wonder I'm a big fan of you, because this is about investigating emotions. That's like my favorite thing.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, I'm curious.
Yeah.
I mean, do you all have any like niche emotional questions you would want answered?
Yeah,
perhaps?
I mean, immediately I was thinking about it.
Oh, yeah,
Do you
go
have
for
any?
it. No.
Okay, so I would say, one thing that I think about all the time in discussing therapy is I feel like as an Asian person, I say that so broadly, but I think that like my biggest struggle is that I like decentralize myself. Does that make sense? Like I'm constantly thinking about how I'm being consumed or like perceived, and I
like part of the group.
Yeah, and I'm always thinking about everyone else's perspective.
Oh, that's so interesting.
Like I'm constantly being like I over rationalize everything because so like even if you make me if you're mean to me, I even then am thinking about, well, that person could have had a hard day and they probably see me this way. Like I try to rationalize their existence and like their point of view. And I never like can just exist super like I'm watching Vanderpump Rules right now.
Me too.
You are?
For the first time because of the whole like Scandival situation.
Okay, no way. I'm on season 4 or 5.
I'm just watching the most recent to get the like.
Okay,
the tea.
got it. I'm starting from the beginning, but I bring up
deep.
Vanderpump because they are so like ready for conflict and they're so sure that they're in the right. And part of that is television.
Right.
But I just see like the confidence that they have and the unwillingness to see the other person's perspective. And I'm like, wow, I exist on like the other side of the spectrum where I'm constantly thinking about the other person's
It's the opposite of main character energy.
Yes, exactly.
Because you're just like, you're thinking about all the supporting cast all the time.
Yes. And
not thinking about yourself.
Exactly.
Enough.
And I like started trying to put myself in a place where I'm more main character energy. But I think about like what brought me to this point, like the fact that like partially it's because I'm Japanese, like the way my parents talk about stuff, whatever.
Yeah.
And then I hear like some white people talk about their stuff and I'm like, whoa, like it's so different the way they like perceive certain things.
Yes.
They work through problems.
Yes.
That is something I think about constantly.
Can I have you on the show?
I would,
because like that would be, I relate so hard to what you're saying and it's so interesting. Like I feel like I mean we're overgeneralizing here, but I do feel like there are a lot of Asian people who do feel this way, and there's like culture and all these, and it's like I have in friend groups, do you notice that like there's the people who have no problem talking about their stuff all the time. Yeah. Do you have trouble kind of like taking up space with your emotional needs and problems?
Yeah, I've gotten way better at it, but I had like a whole friend group breakup because of it.
Oh, and
it was like all white people and me. Yeah. And then it was like, obviously there's a lot of other stuff, but I would say that was like the foundational issue is I was like, oh, I feel like I can't come to the table with my stuff, but I'm expected to be there for their stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, I totally feel that. And I still feel that now with some certain friends. Not that I feel that I can't do it, but I'm like, they do it so consistently.
Right, the freedom. I'm so jealous of that abandon was just like, I'm just going to talk about myself forever.
Exactly.
Well, can I ask, like, do you have a particular question around it that you would want answered?
I mean, like, how do I get better at it?
Yeah.
I think it serves you well in this world, in America, in our society.
Also as in comedy.
And in comedy. I mean, that was part of, I think, the other piece. If you want to have a POV, you kind of have to like be sure of yourself. And like, I think I've gotten better at it for sure. Like if you had talked to me 4 years ago, I wouldn't be close to this. I mean, I had I've had one creative writing job interview, and they asked me, what do you think your voice is? And I couldn't answer it. And I felt that was like a turning point for me because I was like,
what was this?
This was in 2020.
Oh.
I was like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I don't know what I think is funny. I don't know what I think I do well. Also because I'm, grew up in a household where you don't say you do things well.
You ever see that show? You watch the show Hacks?
Yeah.
Yeah. That show, I feel, is so much about the main character and her...
Deborah.
Yeah.
Deborah Vance.
Is that the young one?
That's the older one.
Well, both of them, I think it's like look how good we are, and I deserve this.
Right.
And I've talked about this on the show before, but there's one moment, there's a scene. First of all, I like the show, so it's a good show.
This season's great, by the way.
This season is really good. But there's it's like in one of the first episodes, the girl says, I'm funny, I deserve this. And I wanted to throw up in my mouth because I would never say that.
I know. I would never say that either.
You know what I'm saying? I don't know if it's an Asian thing. I don't know if it's just like normal people or whatever, but like I would never say that.
I know. And I'm so like jealous, but also turned off, but jealous when other people have that energy where they're like, well, I'm good at this.
Yeah, I'm so good. I'm good.
I've never thought I'm good at anything.
Yeah.
But
and actually sometimes I think whenever I say that, then the ritual in my brain goes, no, you suck at this.
Yeah.
And that's the funny part. You're terrible. You're the worst person who's ever done this. Yeah, that feels good. And then I can turn that into a bit.
I see. Yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah.
So.
It's confusing, but
it's very confusing.
I want to be like that.
Well, it's so interesting that you said the thing around like the POV and like that job interview and really, because like to me, just like as a fan of your work, I totally see a POV.
Oh.
And like it actually like it makes a lot of sense that you have this situation with like you're like I'm always thinking about how other people see me, because that is a lot of your sketch.
It is.
It's like a lot of it. It's like you observing / making fun of the way you're seen.
Yeah.
/ how other people's perspective. Like it's like it's very like multiple character, multiple vantage point.
Yeah.
Like I think that's really. I mean, I think that's like a strength.
Yes, I think
rather
so,
than just
too.
being like I'm like this is my one way of thinking and metabolizing the world. Like that's kind of. I mean, that gets old.
Yeah.
Probably.
I do think it's a strength, but then sometimes I want to have that vibe of like, you can't, I'm the best, or I'm good at this and I know it. Like that, like energy of like, I can show up and just start talking. And take up space. Like, I want that.
Well, so I think a great Proxy episode would be like you on one end of the spectrum.
Yeah.
And then somebody else who has a problem on the other end of the spectrum. Someone who's been, people are breaking up with like them in their friend group. Like someone who has too much of that energy.
Takes up too much space.
Takes up too much space. Too self-absorbed, just like always talking about their stuff. And it's a problem for them. And then I think that would be really interesting.
That would be interesting. Would that person be aware that that's a problem?
That's the question. Ooh. That's the question. How could you continue? Well, that would be a question that we would ask them.
Yeah.
Is like, has this been brought to your attention? I think it would need to be someone who is at least aware that it's a problem, but doesn't know how to get out of it. Yeah, I'm going to be calling you later.
This would be so fun. I mean, I feel like it'd be so interesting. I'm always so curious.
Yeah, let's do it.
That's a good one.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Asian, not Asian. Well, we're doing a lot of monetizing for me right now.
I know.
We have the cameo, the NPR intro cameo. We have a new podcast episode for Proxy. I'm cleaning up in this interview.
Well, hold on. We take a 10% cut. Let's just chill.
It's Sopranos rules.
One of the last things I think we want to also talk about is, I think sort of related to your absurd rituals, is that you have this weird art project called Yowei Shaw, and you do, I guess, like fan art magnets, which is like that's not a thing. Fan art I don't even know what that means. What is that? You're just making it up. I thought when you sent this to me that you had been drinking and that you then were like making all sorts of spelling errors. So I was like, what's happening here? I want to know.
Wow. I'm realizing that I'm coming off really unhinged in this interview. This is like my coming out party from NPR. Like, NPR, let me go. And this is the real me. And it's we should put it back in the studio and not let her out.
We love it.
Okay. So Yowei Shaw is another ritual bit. I'm really trying to make this happen. And I feel like I'm sensing resistance from across from the recording table. But basically, like after my layoff, one of the other things that I experienced was like wanting to hide. Like really, like I found it difficult to be around my friends and family, and who are all reaching out, all wanting to support me. Yeah. But like, I just didn't want to be around people. Like I felt shame. And I was like, why do I feel shame? This is so silly. It's not about you. And so I was isolating myself. And so I wanted to come up with a way to be in community again. And so I just got a pink massage table and a hot stone kit and pink hot towel steamer, because of course we need a theme. Pepto-Bismol pink is the theme for Yowei Shaw. And I just started watching YouTube videos, and I sent out an email to my friends and was like, welcome to Yowei Shaw. If you would like a massage, sign up.
Wow.
And like it sounds a little random. I love massage, so it's not the most random thing ever. I love massage, and I had been interested in learning more about it. And then this was just like the perfect opportunity to just like go for it, to like try to learn and give them to my friends and family. And it was just like this really interesting experiment in intimacy, because like we don't normally like touch our friends' butts.
Yeah.
Or maybe people do. I don't know. But I'm not normally doing that.
Yeah.
And like just and it was co-ed, obviously. Like it was with like my husband's friends.
So this is all clicking now because you had emailed me and I was like, you were saying I'm massaging my friends and massaging this and getting massages, and I was like, she's spelling messaging all wrong over and over again.
Yeah.
How drunk is this woman?
Yeah.
You really do mean
massaging my friends. Oh yeah, no, I give 90-minute massages.
What?
I just gave one last night and my hand's tired.
Oh my God, I'm so jealous of your friends.
Well, yeah, so
you gotta use your elbow. That's the main thing.
Yeah. Listen, I haven't gotten into. I know I don't have good technique, which is why I'm fucking up my fingers. So I need to. I have.
I mean, that's a great bit to like. I'm gonna give you a 90-minute massage. I know, that's so nice. Oh no, it's gonna be a really bad massage.
Commit to 90 minutes.
Yeah,
that's a long massage.
And I love that the other person's like doesn't stop. It's like no, keep going with your terrible massage.
Yeah. Well, it was so interesting to see who signed up and who didn't, because it like brought up all these questions of like, would you feel comfortable if I touched you for 90 minutes? All over? And like, it was funny to see like the men that like all the women in my life and non-cis men were basically like, yeah, let's go. This is awesome. But all the like cis dudes in my life were all like,
there's a trap. No.
Like, is this
nice
okay?
Try. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like, is this weird?
Yeah, I've seen To Catch a Predator. Yeah. Exactly.
But I think, I was able to convince some of my dude friends to do it, and it was nice.
Wow, that's so interesting.
Yeah, I felt closer. I mean, I probably interview them afterwards about how it felt.
Yeah.
But it just felt nice to cross this boundary and to just like, it's just so weird when you're like, now I know where your moles are on your back. And like, now I'm scrubbing dead skin off your legs. And there's just something about
you do a scrub?
I do. I have a hot towel steamer so that I get the hot towels nice and hot.
Wow.
And then like after I do the oil, after I've done my massage on that body part or region, then I scrub off the stuff.
What?
Wow, there's some Turkish bath shit right here.
Yes.
You can hit him with like the fig leaf or whatever.
I can
get that going.
I can experiment with that in the next iteration.
I think you might be interested in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Have you thought about
Oh my
Wait, why?
Yes. How have we gotten here?
Oh,
what is Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu?
Mike is very much a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu man, and I'm a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu hater.
Yeah, you feel that which is why I bring it up each time. Actually, that's a good proxy one. I hate Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
And it's just us yelling at each other.
It's a combat sport where you hug each other, like it's a wrestling art form.
Right.
And so it's a lot of like
there is
touching,
intimacy. Right.
Yeah. Like,
and how do you feel about that? Like, was it weird for you in the beginning?
No, I'm very cool with touching.
Oh.
And,
okay.
Yeah, I'm very cool with it. Like,
Yeah.
the whole thing in the subway, people are always like, "Don't touch me, don't like it." I'm like, dude, just touch me all you want.
Just sit on me.
Yeah,
Sit on me. It's
in
fine.
fact, that's also kind of the bit. Is that like you can't make me uncomfortable from touching me because, like, I've had someone sweat into my eyeball. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That happens all the time.
So if one of your friends sent an email asking, "Do you want a 90-minute massage?" How would you feel about that?
I would be cool with it, but I would have to run it through my wife, who would not be cool with it, I think.
Oh, interesting.
See, that was a whole other dynamic. Was like, how do the partners feel about me touching their partner and da 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 da. Yeah, it's a whole thing.
Was there any like?
I mean, the thing
friction?
is, I didn't know if there was friction, but I did notice that certain people did not sign up.
I see. Yeah.
And like my best friend and her boyfriend at the time, like that was a question for him. He was like, "Is it weird for me to like be touched by your best friend?" And my friend was like, "No, whatever, go.
Yeah,
like less work for me to do later."
Yeah.
Wow. I think I wouldn't sign up though, just because it doesn't sound like you're a professional. So
Oh my God, Mike, listen, I am definitely not a professional, but like, in a good massage, you like the person getting massage will like start making involuntary noises.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where it's like, you're like, you see like them become more comfortable and they start making noises they probably don't want to make.
Yeah.
I definitely could make people make those noises.
Oh, hey.
That happened last night.
Wow. Okay. Well, thank you very much for coming on to the show.
Thank you for having me.
So
what
fun.
a delight.
Where can I know that you've got a couple episodes of Proxy out right now.
Yes.
And, you can find that on all the podcast platforms.
Yeah. And also I have a Patreon like we all do.
Oh yeah, hit me.
Patreon.com/Proxy Podcast. We're going to have exclusive bonus episodes and other goodies.
Awesome. And any other places they can find you?
Yes. I'm on Instagram, Yowei_Shaw. And then for Proxy, it's Proxy Podcast. And then we're also on TikTok, unfortunately, and other places too.
Yes. Awesome. Great. You can always find us at Asian on Asian Pod. You can find me on there. Nice pants, bro.
And I'm at Jenny Arimoto. And let's just celebrate.
Yes.
Mike hit 10,000 followers.
Finally.
That was a huge goal.
I was all the way up to like 9,800 for like forever, and then I started losing, and I was down to like 9,710 or something like that, and then I just started doing I was like. The kind of big thing was like, I'm just going to do what I want. And I just started posting all my fire outfits and then like being more ridiculous about them. And
Hell yeah.
it got me up there. And I had some help. My friend, like one of my fans was just like, you should try this and do it on this time. And like, he really gave me a lot of bunch of shots of that guy. But it was just a nice monkey off my back. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It was a monkey on your back?
Yeah. I always wanted to get to that point.
That was like truly a number that you've always said.
I always wanted to have that, and I was like, I should. It's it's one of those dumb things. I've been doing this so long. I should have like the K. I should have that.
You should have the K. You deserve the K.
Yeah, I don't care if a bunch of them are Russian bots. That's fine.
Who cares as long as you get the K?
I get the K, comrade. It's all good. I don't care. But yeah, check us out. Find us on Instagram. Find all of us on the platforms.
Yes.
Contribute to our Patreon, patreon.com/Asian on Asian Pod. And then check out our show, Hack City Comedy. Hopefully we'll see each other very soon.
Yes.
And it'll be amazing. And, maybe you'll see us again also on the Proxy podcast.
Yes.
I hope so.
Yeah.
We're going to have a crossover episode. It's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
Can't wait.
Can't wait.
And until then, we love you. Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.